because today we have such exciting topics to talk about. And by exciting, I mean horrible.
Horrible.
I mean, Pam Bondi, the SAVE Act. And, I was going to say I was going to title this The New War on Women, but this isn't new. It's still going on. Like, it just had a lull. And now it's just ramping back up again.
I was just writing this morning about how you're right, it's not new. It is a continuation of a quieter campaign, right? And
Yes.
now it's just loud. And one of the things I was thinking about in reference to you, and this is somewhat off topic, but, again, I've been thinking a lot about Marshall McLuhan for whatever reason, but he has this theory that, that which is about to disappear becomes visible. And so here's the example of sound, right? Right before you break the sound barrier, you can see it. And you can see sound.
Yes.
About this often in terms of, right, once democracy was really threatened on an existential level by the Trump regime and MAGA in general, you really saw your freedoms, right? Or I did in any case, a way that I never had before. And I was really concerned that this was sort of the beginning of the end, right? Now that I can see them, now that they're made manifest visually, that they're going to disappear. But I actually think the opposite is true. We're seeing like every single underpinning of, right, that the other side of American democracy, which is oppression, right?
Yes.
So many people. And that is on full display with Pam Bondi on two different levels. And then I'll wrap it up. One is, right, her protecting the child rapist. And then on the other, the backlash against her.
Yes.
Right? Not the left, not the Democrats, but the white men of MAGA who didn't think she did a good enough job for them.
I shouldn't be surprised by this, but I was when because I started seeing that. Because unfortunately, if you get in social media in certain spaces, like like especially Facebook, it loves to throw you the most horrible stuff. Like if you say one word about Trump, it's like, here's all these horrible places for you to go.
Right.
And and if you look at her performance, it's no different than what Kash Patel or any of these others have done, which is just pound the table, reverse accusations, Darvo all day, and she did really in that respect, she turned it up to 11. It was obvious she's just playing for Trump,
Right.
And she's doing exactly that. And so, but then the funny thing is like she didn't do good enough job to defend him. It's like, but guys, how do you defend the indefensible?
How do you defend the indefensible, right? And so, yes, they too pushed her off that lovely little glass cliff that's there for all of, right?
Well, and I've said this to you for a while. I'm like Pam Bondi, Tulsi Gabbard. I always forget her name, the Secretary of Agriculture. Any woman that's in a cabinet position is just there to be thrown under the bus first.
Right.
Yes. That's her role.
And I called it right after she got off and right before everyone else commented that once this is all over, she will be the first one to be thrown to the wolves. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm not saying she doesn't deserve it. She definitely did it. It was, to me, her performance, and I don't want to do another hot take, but her performance was, and I do use performance purposefully, right? It was a performance.
Oh, it was. 100%. It was a performance for Trump.
It was so hammed up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not shocked that she defended child rapists. But I was surprised at what a community theater level she did it at, right?
That's probably like the most cutting remark. It's just, you literally are the awful mom that Erica Kirk. I could just imagine you with a wine glass and saying, "Yeah, I saw Pamela," and just swirling your Chardonnay, just going. It was very mid. She's bless her. She's trying. She tried, but no. Like, but
So
it's
bad,
true.
but it's
It's
true.
it's
True.
100% true. It was so contrived and fake, to your
Yeah,
point, that even MAGA wasn't buying it, right? Because obviously they don't care what we think,
right.
right? They think we're crazy. If you just give them like like something to grab on, they're going to be like, yeah, okay, like yeah. And but apparently to your point, she could even convince her own people.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't of course, there are so many constitutional, problems. Of course, she had, right, like, the search history of that congresswoman, and, just the complete obfuscation of the truth. Why can't the Congress members who are supposed to be able to see the unredacted files see the unredacted files? Why aren't the names, made available to us yet? And on and on and on. But it was also, I we are seeing, right, the limits of the performativity of the MAGA movement
Yeah,
be hit. And I think that's also it's interesting now that I think about it, right? What happened soon after Bondi's testimony? ICE pulled out of Minnesota. That again, that's the performance of terror, right? That was a staged performance of terror by the Trump regime. I also I hadn't it hadn't hit me before, but they call it a surge as if they're going into Fallujah, you know?
yeah,
Like, what what is this performance of war on the American people? But we're seeing that Americans are rejecting that wholesale. And, even the far, no, I don't want to say the far right because they'll never be convinced, but low propensity, low information voters, this is finally getting through to them. Simply because, right, in large part because that was the gamut, that their performance would be convincing, that it would be compelling to the American people. And so they
right.
up to 11 on the community leader stage. And yet it's the opposite of convincing. People are rejecting it. People are saying, "Oh no, girl, this is not a performance."
You brought up a great point about the military and masculinity, and I really want to touch on that.
Mm,
But I want to go back to where we started when you talked about when something's about to disappear,
yeah.
it becomes visible, and you went where I was kind of where I've been at, which this is sort of I've used the term extinction burst, and a lot of other people have
Yeah.
that this is an extinction burst of sort of that white patriarchal like nationalism, that kind of thing. And I think there's a point to that. Um, I you know, and I think that goes hand in hand with this faux military stuff. I remember when Tom Homan,
Mm,
when they kicked out Bovino, and then Homan goes to Minneapolis, and he's talking about operations there, and he says, "Well, personnel in the theater," like he's talking about a theater of war,
yeah.
and it's like, dude, it's Minneapolis,
Minneapolis.
right? It's literally no, Minnesota nice is a thing.
Yeah.
The only people that used to be nicer to Americans were Canadians, and we somehow screwed that up, right?
Right. Yeah.
An
And
entire
there
nation known for being overly nice.
I know.
You know,
I was in Montana recently for my book tour, and I was driving with a Montanan, and he saw a Canadian license plate, and he was like, "You don't see many of those anymore. They used to come down all the time, and you don't see them very much anymore." So yeah,
man, seriously, any Canadians in the audience, I gotta hand it to you. Like, you want to talk about like patriotic, or which it's not the term for you guys, but just standing toe to toe with your nation.
mm,
Canadians, man, like they're like it's like the politest, F you in the West, like, well, we're just gonna stop buying American. You're like, oh, okay. And oh my God, really? No, they are.
yeah.
Like they just stopped,
No more red state liquor. We have our own, whiskey here in Canada. That's perfectly fine. We have, Scots and Irish here as well. They know how to do things.
Like, fine. We just it's literally it's like that person being very polite. He's like, fine, we just won't come to Las Vegas anymore.
Hi,
We're good.
Christine. Thanks for being here from Canada. She just said hi from Canada, so I wanted to give a shout out.
There we
But
go.
I mean, so going back to this performativity of the military, right? But then at the same time, again, like you have the utter failing, like the red balloon in El Paso. Like, can
Oh
that
my
just
God, don't even get me started on that one. Like,
please? Because
oh,
I didn't pay much attention to that, but it's just the incompetency. It's all the sign and signified, but no, there's no there, right? Like, how is it that it has fallen completely apart in such short order on every single level? You can send in a bunch of thugs to Minnesota, but you can't distinguish between a party balloon and a drone.
yeah. And here's the big. I mean, the incompetence on that, is on so many levels because I did. I'm waiting for like just a few more days for the final stuff to come out, but I did a deep dive, and I worked in aviation, so I've
Uh,
had like I was an operations manager for American Airlines. I was an operations manager in aviation for 8 years. I've had to deal with the tower. I've had to deal with FAA. I mean, like airport. Like I worked at DCA in Philly, so like when airport stoppages when dignitaries, the president came to town. Like I understand about all that stuff, right?
mm, mm,
The absolute here's what they were testing, right? And this is just the tip of the incompetence iceberg. I'll give you one nugget. So it's this laser that's designed to shoot down drones, right? I don't know if I think it's an electronic warfare countermeasure. I don't know if I don't think it's a hot laser where it's like, very Star Trekky where it blows up the
no,
ship
it's
and there's
not like a
fire.
laser gun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally designed to screw up the electronics so the drone will just kind of crash.
Yeah.
Um, Here's the thing though, the laser is so bright, if it hits a cockpit, it could cause not only blind a pilot,
Sure.
but it could cause permanent, ocular
Right.
damage, right? Because it's so powerful. And so they're gonna do this test over El Paso, which I don't know why you would do it over El Paso, which has 1,000,000 people. I guess it's, "We gotta intimidate the
Because
Mexicans,"
it's
and
the
blah,
border.
blah, blah, blah. That's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
When it's like, no, you literally have massive Air Force bases in New Mexico that you can test this and still saber rattler against Mexico, but whatever. So now they're gonna go test this. Here's the great part. Do they inform the FAA that they're going to do? No.
No.
You know, no. Like over like the only other congested airspace in that corridor that's more is the Northeast corridor where you have like Philly, Baltimore, Boston, New York. Like that's the only more congested airspace, maybe arguably Atlanta and the Southeast. So you're going to test this that could blind pilots over a busy corridor when Sean Duffy has already had the worst aviation crash on his record. Let's not forget that
Right. Which happened
since 9/11.
in the beginning. Yeah. Yeah. Days
And
that
you don't tell anybody. You
well,
don't let anybody, and they find out secondhand, and the FAA goes, "They're doing what? Oh, okay. No, we're shutting everything down."
yeah.
Right? That's the tip of, and to your point, it's like, and then they freak out because they see a balloon. And I hope Nina's, 99 Loft balloons in the original German was playing. That would have been awesome.
That'd be awesome. But, I think it's how does this collapse so quickly? And you see what Hexit has been doing, and it's systematically pushing out women and people of color and LGBT
Yeah.
people. And these are the people who, I'm not saying this because these are my people. I'm saying this because it's, factually true that oftentimes these are the people who say, hey, wait a minute. Let's take a moment. Let's think about this. Let's think about the wider implications or stand up and say, no, that's not a good idea. Right. Because when you have a room of people that all look the same and that all think the same, they're not going to question each other's thinking. And that's when you start to have huge mistakes, which we're seeing happen in real time and over a very short period of time. I mean, the rapidity of disintegration in every facet of government, right, is the point. But it's also stunning, but not surprising. And it's just, I think it's just all, again, back to this idea of visibility. It's so difficult for me not to like have a beautiful mind moment where I'm connecting all the red dots,
Right.
because it's this system that every part of which, while it might be an independent, cog, it's all moving towards the same place. And I,
Yes.
again, like going back to Epstein, how can you have, right, this entire regime that is
Yeah.
covering up a generations long campaign of systematic child rape of
Yeah.
mostly girls.
Hmm.
Uh, I've no doubt that they also raped boys, but it was
Hmm.
mostly girls. And
Yeah.
how does that work? It can only work if it's in concert with all these other moving parts, right?
Hmm.
And so just going back to Pam Bondi's performance, I think it was shocking to people because the files are out there to a large degree. Like,
Right.
yeah, the names are redacted, but there's no questioning that it's real anymore. There's no questioning that it was horrific. There's no questioning the, grotesque scale uh,
Yeah.
that it was on. And so I'm just, and that there's more. I think, I don't want to say the Democrats, but Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey and Jasmine Crockett and a number of others have done a really good job, I think, of messaging that this is not the end, this is the beginning. You see a little bit, but there's a lot more to come. And appropriately fueling the interest of Americans to know the entirety of the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it's just me, but if I am a mom, and so, to think these things about children, right, is horrifying. I can't even say it, right? And then what if you had a daughter that age? I mean, that cuts across party line.
They're yeah, this is going beyond. I mean, what's fascinating about this, and to your point, is we've gone. It's been probably decades since we've gone beyond policy disagreement,
Yeah.
right? I mean, when was the last time we had an actual debate on a policy? You know, and how it's going to go, and the impact studies, and this and that, and
Right,
like that's like that's from a bygone era.
right, and
Like
then when you had, like, uh, you know, what am I trying to say? Compromise, right? When's the
yeah,
last time we really had compromise? I mean,
and
it's
and yeah, and what the Republicans have done. I'm sorry, I
no, go
cut you
ahead.
off.
No,
No,
no.
when what the Republicans have done is they did really well on weaponizing identity of the right?
Yeah,
So they, and it would be over dumb things like stupid culture war stuff like, well, Starbucks says doesn't want to say Merry Christmas. Yeah, they don't want to take Jesus out of school. It's even though you leave school and you go like when I in Northeast Tennessee, you go down the block, you'll see six churches,
right.
on five corners, right?
Yeah, everybody
Like it's
on
but
too. It's
yeah, exactly. But I think to your point, where this is different is you are moving past what was sort of that visceral baked in identity, and you're now being asked to accept something truly horrific. This goes beyond, because you can get somebody to say, hey, what about holding your political leaders accountable? No, you're just trying to oppress them, and you just want Trump. It's Trump derangement syndrome.
yeah.
But
Which
now,
Bondi said, "Oh, you have Trump derangement." What does that have to do with anything?
well, again, it's a way for the base to still go, oh, I don't have to adhere to the principle of accountability for my political leaders. You still do, but I don't, because you are just deranged. Like it's just him.
Right.
What you're saying is not valid. But now that this is in the public, it's no longer behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Now you're forced to make a choice internally. Do you support a child rapist
Right.
and a very horrible person? And what does that say about you? Some people won't care, but there are others that are going to be like, Oh,
But
man, and they're gonna have to wrestle with being duped.
okay, so that's one point. But the other point is it's not even right. Like Trump is in those files. Jamie Raskin just said that his name is in those files a million times,
Million
a
times.
million times, and he's not being hyperbolic. Okay, but let's say you're a Joe
Uh,
Schmo of nowhere, and you don't believe that Donald Trump did anything. He's just in there as like an FBI informant, like Mike Johnson said. But are you going to believe that every other billionaire in there
no.
is no? It would the level of cognitive dissonance. I don't think that even Fox News has trained their viewers to achieve yet. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are the Olympics of mental gymnastics, but this is a new level of, mental gymnastics, cognitive dissonance that it would take for a person to believe that the Epstein files are not real, that every billionaire in there is exonerated, and that there's not some kind of that is built that is so powerful that it can rape children
Mhm,
for years and get away with it. I mean,
mhm.
that is staggering. And I mean, I think you and I have this vitriol, right? But and we know that the system is oppressive and it's harmful to people. But this was shocking even to me, the level of depravity and horrificness. Like there's that photo, which I won't describe, but people have seen it and I cannot unsee it. And how did this go on? How did not one person on the island say, excuse me, what? What is this? How is this
Yeah.
happening? And not go back to the FBI or Interpol or wherever they're from and say, hey, have I got a tip for you? You get ready to take down a giant ball and make your career. No, not one person over the course of how many years said that. How is that possible? And it's possible because it is part of this larger system that enables these monsters to do what they want to who they want anytime that they want. And it's not just little girls, it's all of us.
I I wanna say I was shocked by it, but when I sit and think about it, I'm not.
Well,
And here's the reason, is because I've been on the other side of the fence. I've worked in environments where I've worked with a lot of men and where we've had women in it.
mm,
Um, and I've been on sexual harassment investigations, multiple ones,
mm,
some at very high level, like where I wasn't on the investigation that I got pulled in, and like where it when it happens at a high level, it turns into politics, right?
yeah,
Because you get pulled aside, as in like, hey man, this woman's saying something against, the guy above you, you're gonna get pulled into HR. What are you gonna say?
yeah,
Are you gonna, go against, because man, if she's doing this to him, she'll do it to you, right?
yeah, right,
And you get pressured, and it's like, oh, you gotta think about your career, you gotta think about, you know, like people aren't gonna be able to trust you, man. If da 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 da. Like, what did you really see?
right. And it's all like building blocks on building blocks to build, to create the house that Epstein built and that
And
everyone.
again, I've been it where I've gone to HR. They've asked me, and I told them exactly what I saw,
Mm,
and I came out, and I was a pariah.
yeah.
And I had, and it was, but the thing that once fascinated me was there were other guys, usually the ones that I respected,
Mm,
that didn't toss me out. Right?
mm,
It was only the shit heels
yeah, of course.
that suddenly I had a problem with.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was on an investigation. Um, I might have told you this before, where I'll cut to the chase, where it was like a guy who was dating a woman uh, at work. She found out he was cheating on her with another woman in another terminal. She got mad at him. He's a ramper, so she's a gate agent. She followed him down to the ramp, and she was giving him the business. And he got so mad, he turned around and punched her. like laid her out, like boom, and she fell over, and it's on video, right? You can see her head hitting the pavement. I mean, just out cold, right? And he staggers around like, he didn't go and get no help, right? He walked off and went to do his job. Okay. Now, from the little bit I told you at the end of it, how do you think the company ruled? I can tell you my findings, and then I'll tell you how the company ruled.
I'm guessing the company ruled in his favor. I would like to see
Yeah,
him fired, but
yeah. So I said he should be fired and charges brought against him for assault. That was
absolutely.
my finding. The company not only didn't fire him, they wrote up the girl. They wrote up the woman because she left her work area and went into his area and instigated an altercation.
It is difficult, and I think this is why it's so important for women to build community, because I didn't see something like that. But what I did and continue to see, but really when I was younger, I would see my female friends, my women friends being passed over for promotions or having their ideas stolen from them, or
Mhm.
they weren't, deserving of the success. And it's not right on the same level of that, but we always, for a long time, thought that it was circumstantial and not systematic.
Mhm.
And so, to have domestic violence be condoned, if not rewarded,
Yep.
in the workplace, right? That's not circumstantial, that's systematic. And it is, again, I it is sad how many visual examples there, are coming to the fore, but, you know, now we see the SAVE Act, the so-called SAVE Act, which has been relabeled the what is it? Make Elections Great Again Act, which is specifically designed to deprive women of their votes. And it's a
Yeah.
precursor to the right wing, wet dream of repealing the 19th Amendment.
Mhm.
Uh, but, again, it's just all part of this, machine to um, silence and disenfranchise women, people of color, and other minority groups, right? And so, for those of you who don't know what the SAVE Act is, it would require women to present, or everyone to present, a birth certificate, a passport, or where your legal name matches the name on your birth certificate. And so that sounds pretty basic, but when I got married, I changed my name, and so did my husband. We hyphenated our names. And so neither of us have a passport that has our legal names on it.
Mhm.
And so get that, you have to then go and pay $150 to have a new passport. And so that's, a poll tax, um,
Yes.
like straight out. And then this new version of the SAVE Act also requires people to go re register to vote in person, which requires you to take 3 to 4 hours of your day minimum, to go down to your elections office. Who knows where that is? And which is open from 8 to 5. So that's your work day, Monday through Friday.
Yep.
And, and this is this would disenfranchise, just off the top, 70 million Americans, most of whom are women.
Yep. Of
And that
course.
just passed Congress, everybody. That just passed Congress on
Yeah, it passed the House, right? It
that
hasn't
passed,
got.
yeah.
I'm fearful. Like a lot of people are like, oh well, they don't have a filibuster proof majority, blah blah blah. I think they're, and it's like, oh well, they wouldn't do this to their own voters. It's like, yeah, yeah, they would. And again, it's part of the reason I told that story about, we why I believe this is because I've seen the horrible things, like not on a small scale,
Yeah.
right? Because again, when I saw the woman getting, knocked out and laid out on the pavement, I understand it's like, sure, from a policy point, she shouldn't have been out of her work area. I could even say from a practical standpoint, you shouldn't go to the guy. Like, you're going to go to the guy, he's going to react, right? However, there is a part of me that was like, from the time I was little, you don't hit a woman.
Right.
And it should be, and it's not like she wasn't attacking him. It's not like she pulled a knife and his life was in danger, or she had a gun, or, like, I mean, he was, like 6 foot and she's about, 5'2",
He granted
and
his authority to do whatever he
he
wanted
wanted,
to do.
yeah.
And the answer to that was violence. And that is the most common reaction that
Mhm.
whether that's physical violence or sexual violence, no, I don't want to sleep with you. Too bad.
Yeah.
Or, emotional violence or political violence in trying to take away our vote. We don't want to vote for you. Oh, really? Then no vote for you. And Fred,
Right. Oh, yeah. God. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. You nailed it right there. That's it. That's absolutely it. You
yeah.
know,
I
this is
mean,
why I like having lives with you. You're smart. You're a smart cookie.
thank you, Fred. But of course, I love talking with you as well.
Yeah.
Great. But they know that women are the reason that they're not in control. Well, they are in control of every house, but why they're not a supermajority in every legislative body. And they know that we are really, really pissed off. I do
Mhm.
think, though, just to talk about the Greeks, since we talked about the Romans last time, I actually think that the SAVE Act, in many ways, if the Democrats can message it correctly, is the Achilles heel of the Republicans.
Oh, I
Because
do too.
what's that?
I do too. I would agree. Yeah.
Right. Because, if you can make the case to women who did what we were supposed to do, which is get married and change our names, that because you did as you were asked, we are going to punish you, right? Which is the
Mhm.
whole MAGA ethos when it comes to women. Hi, Pam. See you soon. Um, like Pam Bondi, that is an incredibly persuasive argument to make of why you should not vote for this party that literally wants to take away your vote, if not through the repeal of the 19th Amendment, then through this, bureaucratic method. Now, I mean, I do have to admit, I just am so steeped in all of this, right? So I don't know if this is getting through to people. I do know that whenever I write about it or talk about it, it gets a lot of attention here on stuff. But is that really breaking through to the, general populace? I don't know. I don't know.
I think that in order to not get despondent, right,
Mm,
is we have to remember we're in a cultural fight,
yeah.
and you are trying to change something that is so foundational to not just the American experience, the human experience, which
Mm,
is patriarchy,
yeah.
misogyny, and sexism,
Right.
right? I mean, it goes back
Before
probably
the
pre-recorded
Holy
history.
Father.
Yeah, like pre-recorded history. You
Right.
might have examples of matriarchal societies here, here, and here, but they're definitely outliers.
Mhm.
And we're at a place where that's what we're combating.
Yeah.
And I think it is getting through, but it's just like, man, it's if it's a mountain, it's Mount Everest, you
Yeah.
know. And and you and I are just digging with spoons. We're like, all right, but
Yeah.
if there's a billion of us,
Yes.
we'll get it done. But it's just going to take a while, and it's going to take, and it's you have to, I think we have to be in a place where it's like you're doing this because it's work that needs doing, and that's it.
Yes.
You know, like that's I don't know like what's going to happen, but you know, w- whenever we get to wherever it is, I want to be asked, like, I want to be saying like, yeah, what'd you do? Oh, I did this.
Is
You
virtue
know,
with Lord, Fred? Is that what you're telling me?
yes, but because I've been in those moments in my
No,
life
I
where it's like,
agree.
I've had to make those decisions, right? And it does feel like Alana said, it feels insurmountable.
Mm.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, it is, and it will grind you down because it's like you're to your point, Lorissa, is like you're like, man, am I getting through? Is this even happening? Is it doing anything? And it's just you have to shift your mind to where it's like, no, this is who I am, and this is the values I want to live by, and I'm going to live by them,
Yeah,
come
and
hell or high water.
I read a lot of Camus when I was young, and
Well, this is why I love you. It's like I was I was actually referencing Sartre, but yeah, Camus and him are contemporaries. So
well, yeah, I know you're messaging Doctor, but I'm talking about Camus.
I this is why we're friends. This is why we're friends.
But, and they also, of course, were great. They were great friends as well. But, at the end of the plague, when he says, we just have to keep putting our shoulder to the grindstone and trust
Yes.
day we will stop this machine. And I hold that, right? I have always
Mhm.
held that to my heart. I remember where I was when I read that as a teenager, um, and how I felt, and this sense of like, it was very strange. I had this sense of like darkness around me, but a light like right on me. So anyway, Camus and I are very close. I should go back and reread him. But in any case, as someone in the chat was saying, it feels so much. It feels insurmountable. And yes, but I think there is such a joy in doing it together. And I kind of see this, in the 90s and aughts, right? When I started my sort of protest and political career, there was a severity and seriousness to all things protest. And, Minneapolis, for as horrifying as what happened there, right? Not just to Alex Preddy and Renee Good, but to so many, many people there, not to mention all the immigrants who were abducted and kidnapped and undoubtedly are being tortured in one way or another, right? Like there's horror, but the protesters showed up with joy and humanity and solidarity, and the image of those people singing, that choir who would just sing, "It's okay to change your mind. You can live a better life." That is the energy that we have to bring to this fight, because if it is all digging alone with your spoon at the base of Mount Everest, no, we're never going to make it. Um,
Never gonna.
that work has to be done sometimes, but sometimes part of that work is dancing and singing and doing it together.
Yeah. To your point, like part of that is going to be people preparing meals and like support systems for the people that are doing the digging, or entertainment for the people that are doing the
And
digging.
art, yeah.
Yeah, and giving them a reason to be like, man, look at like look at what our side produces. Like, okay, cool. Like I'm going to keep going. That's just as important, because a lot of people say, there's this feeling like if you're not out in the streets and if you're not, like just a jackbooted militant,
Right.
then you're not doing enough. And it's like, no, like sometimes it's just like, well, I'm an artist, so I feel like I shouldn't do that. No, actually, it's even more important now.
Yeah.
Right?
I have
Like
a
that's,
I have a friend who's a nurse, and she's like, "I don't know if I'm doing enough." I'm like, "Girl, you're literally a nurse and a mom. You're enough. It's fine."
yeah,
Although I do wanna say, speaking of people, if they feel they can't, if they're not on the streets, they don't feel they're doing enough. I just wrote about this, and people are really responding to it well, right? Which I think is important, and I'm glad it's finally getting traction. But there's this new campaign called Unsubscribe and Resist. I don't know if you've seen it, Fred, and I don't know if you have any opinions on it. But basically, Scott Galloway, who I appreciate, put together this campaign, and it's sort of the tiers of companies that you can boycott. Um, and which level at which you want to punch them in the wallet, read another an anatomical part, because it's these tech companies that he's identified that are supporting the Trump regime, right? So he laid out this really interesting example. So, okay, let's take OpenAI. OpenAI is valued on the stock market based on its profitability, but its number of subscribers. So if you have an OpenAI paid account, onto ChatGPT and you unsubscribe, you're actually taking $10,000 out of its market cap because its market cap is dependent upon the number of subscribers. And
Right.
hurt Kroger, let's say, in the same degree, you would have to ask 10 families not to shop at Kroger for an entire year. That's
Oh
not.
wow.
But with all these streaming services, Meta, Apple, Amazon, OpenAI, so on and so forth, simply unsubscribing to them has an out like such a greater degree of impact, right?
We saw that with Disney,
It,
with the Jimmy Fallon thing. Yeah.
yes, I mean, and less than 3.5% of those subscribers, left, but they panicked immediately, and so
Mhm.
and I'm like, if you can't get in the streets or you're concerned, or if there's not protests in your town, or if you're worried about police violence, just go on your computer and click a few buttons and you're making a huge impact. And the other thing, the reason I thought about it actually, Fred, was, you know, we live in a consumer culture. We're told we're not artists, we're not creators, we're not citizens, we're not voters, we're not even humans. We're consumers. Our main job on this planet is to consume. And that's how we're referred to constantly and most often. And when we get off these platforms, right, and we have to make our own fun, as it were, or we realize that we don't need this thing in order to survive, I think there's a real shift in perspective that is powerful, not on a political level, but on, and that's even more impactful, right? If we can
Yeah.
shift. No, this is like pie in the sky stuff. But my gosh, imagine if 3.5% of the American population could shift from seeing themselves as consumers to citizens. Could you imagine? And
No, I mean that's what keeps me going, right? Like I've recently had to make, more of a shift on my Substack because I just don't want to be, you know, oh, let's talk about the horrible thing that Trump did. And there's some of that, right? But it's if you don't provide a cultural context, if you don't provide, because look, to your point, and it's a great one, I don't want to be just a consumer.
right.
Like talk about being reduced, talk about having your humanity taken away and objectified. Like that's horrible. And and here's my little bit of a brag is and it's more of me being a Luddite than anything else. I don't have to unsubscribe from ChatGPT because I've never subscribed to it. I've never used it. I never have actually.
Good, good.
Because I'm actually I just turned 49. So like I'm entering into that deep into middle-aged man phase where I'm just like, how do y'all use this contraption again?
So
You put the what now?
yes.
You got to type in a description. It's got to be detailed. Well, just type it out. It's like, and I mean, I'm at that place where I'm like, I, I mean, even with screenwriting,
Yeah.
people are like, do you work off an outline? I'm like, no. Yeah, it's like, because by the time I work through it and type it out,
Mm.
I could have written 20 pages of script. I'm not going to work off an outline. I'll give it to a producer, if they want it, and
Do
then I'll make it.
do you use that program that formats your screenplays?
No,
That is great. That is good for you, Fred. That you are the only screenwriter I know who doesn't use that. That's amazing.
I have to put
But
it in.
so
I have to put it in Final Draft.
yeah,
No, but like no, like
but
it's
people, for you, this is such a big brag, okay? Because screenplays are the most fiddly formatting of anything. It's wild. So to not do it on Final Draft is a
I
commitment.
have to load it up and then I pay for it because
It doesn't.
like I yeah, like it'll mess it up and I got to go through it, but it's like I do that on the proofread phase. But I mean, honestly, once you kind of learn where to tab and indent and how to do it, it's not that difficult. And again, I learned that my God, back in like the Windows 95 days,
Those are the days. Those
And
are
I was broke and I was like, I couldn't afford Final Draft, so I was just like, all right, I guess I have to learn how to do this formatting,
okay.
and you just and once you kind of get used to it, it's
Okay.
and I'm one of those guys where like I if I have something that works, like I will just keep doing it.
Yeah. But okay,
No.
unsubscribing. Like I have unsubscribed to, music streaming and I have an old car. I have a 2008 Honda CR-V, and it doesn't like, I can't plug in my phone, and I refuse to turn on Siri, and the only way to connect is to Siri, but I refuse to do that. So I'm left with the radio, right? I have to listen to the radio or else I don't listen to anything. And 2 things have happened. One, I have discovered KCSB, which is my local college radio station, which is the best radio station on the planet. If you do want to use a computer, you can go on and listen to it streamed live. But then the other thing, right, is hearing how many students, right, the DJs, talk about how they love to go into the physical archives and find the cassettes and the CDs and the records. And I think people are wanting to return to that tactile
Mhm.
experience. And because it's so, I mean, talk about, right, the most intense form of alienation when we don't even have the chance to interact with the art that we are experiencing. And so I would just encourage everybody to I don't know, like go get a CD or a record or cassette. It's just such a
Radio's awesome. I mean, terrestrial radio is still good. I've got like 3 stations near me. Like what sold me on it was, I had, there's one that plays blues,
Yeah.
and they played Howlin' Wolf. It was like Smokestack Lightning, and I went, like, "What?" And then there was a jazz one, and I heard Mingus, with Pork Pie Hat, and I was just like, "Man, I ain't going back to Sirius."
I know.
Like, I'm good, you
It
know?
it tells you stuff. It tells you the stuff that you want, that you it's like more stuff you know. I want stuff that I don't know. I want new worlds open to me. And you're not going to get that through an algorithm. First of all, that's programmed by some, no offense, Fred, but like white guy. And that's tailored to me. I don't want things tailored to me constantly. It's just like, final note, the dead Kennedys, I think about this all the convenience or give me death. And, that's where we are, like in a real way. It's like everything has to be convenient, but we are going to die if it's not convenient. If I can't have Amazon in 2 days, then I guess I'll just go to the concentration camp that they're building. Fine. Not a good idea.
No, it's not. No, it isn't. Like, but it's funny because there's a lot of I don't have Pandora. I don't,
And
yeah, I don't do any of those.
a
I
lot
don't
of
do any of the music.
Twin
Yeah.
Cities.
What happened?
I said, you don't have Pandora. What are you, a dental office in the Twin Cities? Nobody has Pandora. Sorry, everybody.
See how old I am? It's like, I don't have any of that stuff. You know, I don't have any of those
Yeah.
45s with your hula hoops and yeah, your hopscotch earrings. Yeah, like,
No, somebody on here said when you're driving through Nebraska or Kansas, satellite radio is a lifesaver. Valid. But at the same time, I remember I was driving through Oklahoma and they have a really big population of Bangladeshi. And so you got some really good Bollywood radio in the middle.
yeah,
So
isn't it
yeah,
wild?
do yes, listen to satellite radio in the middle of nowhere, but occasionally just scan through because you might get some good stuff.
Here's
That's
a pro tip. Here's a pro tip if you like, if you can figure this out. Like, I would travel some routes where I knew where the Sikh truck drivers would stop, because that's where you get a lot of like good food, you know.
yeah.
And it's usually in some out of the way gas station, and in the back they've got a kitchen, right? And I got into a lot of that food in
Oh,
DC. Right, and so, a lot of folks like, Sikhs used to, like, they just got into trucking. Like, you'll see them like Siam Trucking when you're driving through. Like, yeah, it's, Sikhs own that, and so they built like their community built basically way stations so that they could stop at and then get like some of their, cuisine and, a little bit of home while they're on the road. You just gotta figure out where they're at. And, so instead of stopping at Subway, you're like, "Oh, man, like, what's this doing out here?" That's what it's doing out there, you know? And that's, I think, I think that's what they want us to lose because good God, do you really want to live in white America? I mean, really? Do you want to live in consumerist culture, corporatist white America? God, no. Everything would be terrible. The music would be terrible. The movies would be terrible. The art would be terrible. Like it'd be terrible. Ugh, gross. No, sorry.
And I mean, I think it just, a lot of people say, Trump is like Hitler, right? And I don't think he is, not because he's not terrible,
No.
a maniacal, genocidal bastard, but because Hitler was very popular, right?
Mhm.
Hitler also, first of all, he's popular. Second of all, he consolidated communication and media very quickly, and then also created like a whole industry, right? Like I forget the name of it, but Nazi Germany started manufacturing affordable radios that were shortwave, so you could sell them very quickly, and then they would only pick up state-run stations.
Sure.
And so, of course, this is what the Trump regime is trying to do with its pressuring all of these companies and by the way, we got to get into Gallup in a minute. But
Oh yeah.
but you know, so that you don't have, right, a ecosystem of ideas. And that is what a lot of people are living in, right, with Newsmax and Fox and now CBS and all these other companies that are folding to his demands for reasons I cannot understand. And then, then we are all living in a world in which Trump or his idea is popular, right? Where, I can just imagine him dreaming that when he dies, he will lay in state like Stalin and people will line up, around the Capitol to praise his, orange funeral but I think I think that cat's out of the bag, the genie's out of the bottle. That's not going to happen. And I actually think that I don't wanna I don't think I don't know if this is true, and maybe I have my rose-colored glasses on, but, right, like, firing all these people from the Washington Post, like, why don't you just create an army of investigative journalists with a vendetta against you? You wanna see how that goes? Let's watch. Get the popcorn. Let's see how that goes,
You don't even have to do that. Like, I mean, there's Substack is creating, I mean, Ellie Leonard, is, I mean, going out. I mean, she's talking to Jamie Raskin and Jasmine Crockett
Yeah.
about some of the things she's found. And,
Right.
you know, I mean, yeah, and it's just and it's fascinating the people I get to meet, like, even in their early stages. Like, I remember when, I was talking to her about probably a year ago, and, she was just starting to get some traction.
Mhm.
And, we've done lives together and everything else, but where she's at now, I'm like, "Man, you're talking to Jamie Raskin and Jasmine Crockett. You were literally advising people on the Hill to help them go after Pam Bondi."
Yeah,
Like, it doesn't get more citizenry than that, you
exactly.
know?
I have been very encouraged that numerous people in the Democratic Party, not all of them, but a lot of them, like Jamie Raskin, like Ro Khanna, like AOC, like Jasmine Crockett, have embraced, and Melanie Stansbury too is fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
this other mode of getting their message out and not relying on the corporate media, which was lying to us before, but is just like full, like no holds bar, making shit up now. So yeah, I really do think we are witnessing the recreation of the fourth estate. And I also, people, I think it's a misconception that journalists and journalism was always on the side of the people. That's not true. It
Nope.
goes through ebbs and flows. From the 1890s through the progressive era, that you do have investigative journalists spearheaded by Jacob Riis, Ida B. Wells, and many others. Um, but then you have, right, that ebb in the 1920s and the era of big business and the business of America is business. you have this erosion of investigative journalism. Then in well, I won't go through the whole history because that's a bit
But
boring.
not yet. But yes, to your
But
point.
in
Yeah, go ahead.
right? Like in through the 50s, through the 60s, no such thing as investigative journalism. It was just, what do you say, sir? Okay, let me write it up and then I'll print it. And it wasn't until the Vietnam era where you really had this resurgence of American investigative journalism. And so I would just say to people who are like losing heart, we have done it before. We have absolutely built the fourth estate from the ashes many
Oh
times.
my God. I read this awesome book. It is about this woman who was a war correspondent with like this male first name. You might have heard about it.
Is her name Dickie Chappelle? Is the book called First to the Front?
That was it.
Oh, okay. I spoiler alert, I wrote it. I didn't wanna
Oh
put
my God, you wrote that? Wow.
Red, I sent it to you. By the way,
Sorry, guys. That was me setting up her to, because again, like I was gonna to the point, like you just came off a book tour.
yeah.
You're writing about,
God,
you know, like amazing women and what they did who had all kinds of things against them,
yeah,
at a time when they weren't supposed to be, like you look at these women like what they did and moved culture forward, but you look at the time they're living in and what they did, they had all this against them, and you're writing about them,
yeah.
right?
I mean, Dickie Chappelle and any women reporter in that age was not allowed to be part of the National Press Club. Women weren't allowed into the National Press Club until the 1980s, and they certainly weren't allowed to ask a question of the President of the United States. Like, what? We never talk
Yeah,
about that. Women were completely shut out of reporting on the most powerful person in the world and holding him to account until the 1970s. Like, how is that not more in our discussion of what a free press is? And
right,
now, sum it up, I think that's what they want. That's what the Trump regime and all they represent wants, is us to forget that we have crushed their kind before many times. They are weak. We are strong.
right.
See it? Oh, just pack it up. You're done. You just don't know.
Yes.
Oh,
I mean, to your point, one of the definitive writers, a popular historian, Barbara Tuchman, who wrote in the 50s on World War One and a lot of things on World War II, she can't come to the press club.
yeah,
And her work is seminal today,
right.
her history. And but she was a journalist by trade, you know, and to your point, like, what the last thing I'll put out there, and this is why we have these discussions is you, you write about history. I talk about history. I write about it a little bit and I'm in book form, which everyone buy our books. They're amazing. I have both of them. Yay me. So I have both of them signed,
You do.
and so, a little bit of flex there. But the point with this is we've been through this before. There's this, was like, oh, we've lost our way. And, we've never been like, oh my God, yes, we have.
Yeah.
We've been through this so many times, and it's our turn. That's all it is. It's our turn.
Yeah.
Others did it before us. It's now our turn.
Yeah.
And
And I say, more and more, I really feel that people are meeting the moment. People are realizing what's at stake, but also that they have power. I think there was this, understandably period right after the election where people just felt steamrolled
yeah.
and
Oh God. Yeah.
needed to rest, and that's valid, Um, and some people had privilege or the ability to stand up and keep fighting. And now just look at Minneapolis. We're seeing so many people rally to the cause now that they are rested, now that they are ready, and now that they, have the ability to do something. So I do just want to change the subject real quick before I go for it. And I want to let you know that I went after our discussion 2 times ago when you made fun of my mom's sweater. I went to,
I did make fun of your mom's sweater.
yes. I went to the thrift store and I bought the craziest shirts that I could find. So I just want you to know that from now on, whenever you see me on a live with Fred, I will be wearing an outlandish shirt of some kind. So please tune next time to see the weird outfit that I'm wearing.
It's not weird. It's just a mom outfit. Right?
Fun outfit. This is so hip. This is so cool.
That is absolute like only if you literally do like the 90s mom jeans where you tuck it in and then like, the
Girl, do you want me to stand up?
do I know you or do I not know you?
You know me, Brad. You know me so well. Well, speaking of momming, I gotta get to the kids, but thank you so much for having me on. This was an
Yeah, thanks for being on. I love it. Always a pleasure. Like, and everyone, thank you for tuning in. But yeah, don't let me bully you out of your mom sweater.
I don't know. I just want to look nice for you, friend.
Stop it. Then I'm gonna have to start putting the pomade and the beard oil in, and we can't have that.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.